The show where anything goes. Motivation, mindset, recovery, philosophy, and life. We become who we are through what we experience. We all have a story, and this is My Backstory with Josh Boyer.
So here we are. This is My Backstory podcast, episode number 5 with Andrew Reps. What's up, man? So, hey, a little backstory on this. I was in the Air Force, and I was a security forces member, and I was stationed with an amazing guy named Phoenix Hanks, also known as Senior Master Sergeant Phoenix Hanks. And he was actually stationed with Andrew in Lakenheath, and I was stationed with Phoenix in Mildenhall, maybe like, 10 years, probably 10 years before. When were you there? What year?
I was there 05 to 08, so.
Oh, okay, then, yeah. So you're like 2 years later.
Yeah.
Over at Lakenheath. But anyway, Phoenix linked us up, and I thought it was like, man, this would be a good opportunity, man. We kind of are familiar with some of the same stuff. We had the same job, and I want to hear a story, man. Yeah, for sure. So the goal of tonight actually is like, I want to hear your backstory, man. Like where's your upbringing? Like where'd you grow up? Like what made you decide you want to join the Air Force? And now like you're rapping, like what's the goal with that? Like, do you have a project you're working on? What's the end game?
Cool.
So basically you're probably going to do most of the talking. I'm going to do most of the listening, and then I'll ask questions as we go, but
sounds good.
Take it away, brother. It's all
okay. Yeah. So I was raised in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Both my parents were in the Army, and they met in the Army band. And so that was kind of the music thing where we got started with music. They had me and all my brothers choose an instrument to play, and that's kind of where I got into the music. And played trumpet.
Nice.
So I played trumpet through elementary school, middle school, and then a little high school. Okay. And, you know, it was kind of one of those things like, where are you going to take trumpet? So
right.
I was like, started rapping.
Yeah, for sure.
Got into hip-hop real big in high school, like underground hip-hop, real lyrical stuff. And, so I started at 16. And then,
so you were rapping since 16?
Yeah,
that's a trick. You know, it's funny because like when I was watching your stuff on Instagram, like your flows, I'm like, man, I think I'm a relatively smart guy, but I think like rappers, like they must be smarter than me, because like coming up with a flow, you got to have like a fucking dictionary like in your head, dude, to like be able to come up with the right words.
It's a lot of
right
practice.
Rhymes.
Oh yeah,
for sure. So I was like, man, that's fucking
practice.
crazy, dude, but cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So. From there, I mean, I didn't know where to go. I was from, like I said, Sierra Vista. It was a small town in southern Arizona. There was nothing going on there, and so
what's that closest to? Like Tucson?
Tucson, yeah, okay. Yeah, about an hour south. And so, besides getting in trouble, what should I do? So I was like, well, let's go join the military. Walked into the Marines office actually, and when talked to my dad afterwards, and he said, you know, this was 2004.
Yeah.
You know, not too far after 9/11. So he talked me out of it.
Right.
So I was like, well, what do you think? And he said, when I was in the Army, you know, we stayed with the Air Force every once in a while. They treated their people really well. So went with the Air Force.
For sure.
Yeah. And
that's cool. Yeah, because my stepdad, well, he was a Marine. My father was in the Navy. My brother was in the Navy. But my stepdad used to always tell me when I was a kid, like, oh, you're definitely going to be a Marine. You're for sure going to be a Marine. And I think, like, mentally, he's probably right. You know what I mean? Maybe I should have been a grunt.
Right,
you know?
right.
But I don't know what it was, man. When I went to go sign up, same thing. I just was like, dude, I'm just going to end up, like, stuck. You know, I felt like I was already stuck, you know, where I was working at Chick Sporting Goods doing loss prevention.
Okay.
And Chicks is like, I think Dick's owns Chicks now. They like bought them out.
Uh-huh.
But I was doing loss prevention, and all my buddies were like going to college, and I got accepted to Norwich University in Vermont. I got accepted to Linfield College in Oregon. Cool. And I was afraid to like leave like my girlfriend at the time. You know? I was like, oh, I can't leave my girlfriend. Yeah. And so I decided to stick around, and then I saw everyone going off to college, and I was like, shit, dude, I'm going to end up like that guy that, you know, played football in high school, could have gone to college and maybe played football D3 or whatever. And now I'm going to be stuck, dude, and just like drinking beers on the weekends with a bunch of high schoolers at high school parties. So yeah, dude, I did the same thing. I went to the recruiters, and I decided on the Air Force, man. And it wasn't even from talking to anybody. I didn't really even talk to my stepdad actually left the Marines and went into the Air Force Reserves. But
Cool.
I didn't talk to him. I talked to him. I just was like, man, I'm just gonna go to the Air Force.
Yeah.
That's it. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, so from there, you know, the routine, I mean, basic. And then I went to England was my first duty station. And so for me, I got big into drinking at that point. I mean, I was 19 and in England, and I could drink legally. So
Yeah.
got real big into that. And
Were you guys
obviously
still
working.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Were you guys still PRP at that time?
No.
Oh, okay.
It just changed, I think, about a year before that. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
It was way worse then, dude. You got there at a good time.
No, I heard, yeah.
PRP, it was nuts.
So, yeah, I guess that's where the problems actually started. I got married right before. It's kind of, you were talking about you didn't want to leave your girl or whatever.
Right.
Got married really young, and brought her over there with me. I ended up cheating because I was, you know, drinking, partying. She wasn't there for like the first 3-4 months.
Right.
And cheated, told her that I did, and that was kind of the end of it. You know, she stuck around
So she
for a while.
she was never even in England with you? Or
She was, but I didn't tell her till she got there. So
okay. So,
sneaky
yeah.
me, yeah.
And she was an Arizona girl, like you knew her from high school and stuff?
Right, yeah.
You know, I just had that conversation with a buddy that I was stationed with at Mildenhall. Called me last night, and he lives in Florida now. And I was telling him, you know, I love the military. I love my experience that I had in the military. One of the things that my least favorite thing about it was just that, like the infidelity was like across the board, just gnarly. You know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, homeboy gets deployed. Now his old lady is sleeping with other dudes, and it's like some of these dudes are like guys that were just having beers with a guy like before he left.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I mean, the way that I grew up was definitely different than that, where it's like I should be able to trust my closest homies, like with my wife and with my kids, and be totally cool with it, you know. But that didn't seem to be the case while I was there at all, man. So it sounds like you're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you get there, and you know, and you decide that, hey, you know, the drinking grabbed you right away.
Yeah.
It usually does.
It took over. Yeah,
for sure.
And so after things fell apart with the marriage, then I ended up getting a DUI there.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, so I got a DUI, lost rank, was a E2 at that point, and slowly, you know, kind of pulled back a little bit, deployed, just Saudi Arabia, nothing wild. Came back and, you know, back at it again.
Yeah.
And just kind of coasted through those 3 years in England. Nothing too wild after the DUI. You know, I had to basically earn my way,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, earn my way back up and, you know, let people know that I deserve to stay in.
Yeah.
And so after those 3 years, then I went to Arkansas after that, and deployed shortly after to
Is that Mountain Home, or what is it? What's in Arkansas? What base?
Little Rock.
Oh, Little Rock.
Little Rock
Okay,
Air Force Base, yeah. All they have is C-130, so it's just a flight line, and there's not a whole lot to do there other than drink. So there I was
go.
again, yeah. And so it was kind of the same. I was okay for a while, and then back to the drinking again.
Yeah.
Should have got another one there.
Yeah.
I actually was pulled over 2 times in one night. The first time he must have been new or something, let me go. Yeah. He I guess radioed to someone else, and he pulled me over probably 5 minutes as I was heading back home. And they basically, after they pulled me over, they called my flight chief and said,
so you were on base?
No, I wasn't even on base.
Oh,
but
okay.
They knew I was in the Air Force, and so they said, call your boss, and we want to talk to him. He came and got me, and then I was like, well, I'm invincible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I can drink, I can get away with it. People are going to cover for me. And so it got real bad at that point. And after I deployed, let's see, it hadn't even been a year, went to Iraq and met a girl, got married again, and came back. And obviously couldn't drink over there. So, you know, she didn't know that side of me.
Right.
Everything worked out well. She was stationed in Florida, in Tyndall.
Yeah.
And so once we both came back,
Did you get married while you were downrange or what?
no, just shortly after we
okay.
did like the whole leave thing and got married. She came out to Arkansas and we got married. And this same thing. She went back to Tyndall. I cheated again. I told her about it. Things fell apart. So I mean, it's just like a pattern.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think they can see my heart, but then, you know, once you start drinking, all that stuff goes out the window.
Right.
And so, from there,
You know, I applaud you, man, to be honest with you, dude, because like most people don't want to share those stories. You know what I mean? Most people do not want to be that vulnerable to be like, hey, listen, like, yeah, dude, I fucked up and made some really piss poor decisions. And I, you know, decided that, you know, I drank too much and I cheated on my old lady. And that's kind of, you know,
right.
A lot of people don't want to share the stories because it like makes you, you know, some people are afraid of judgment or whatever. And like, well, I wasn't even mad. I got in trouble too while I was there. It wasn't for drinking, but yeah, I was doing steroids while I was there, you know, and I got popped for it, dude.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, some people know, I mean, people I was stationed with, they definitely know that story because it was like a big ordeal.
Yeah.
But thankfully, man, I had a commander at the time who like had grace on me, dude. Like he basically like showed me mercy. He could have completely changed the course of my entire life by, you know, the decision he made. And he chose to say, hey, listen, this guy's a good guy. He made a piss poor decision, but I'm returning him back to work, and that's that. But he, and I called him later, you know, we got in contact years later so I could thank him, you know, because I was like, man, like you didn't have to do that. And, but that's the thing, dude. We all have a story, man. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. And that's actually one of the last podcasts I just did. That's one of the things we talked about was like, he was saying, this guy, Josh, that I interviewed was saying, you know what? I should run for office because I don't have any skeletons in my closet. Everybody knows everything about me. There's nothing you're going to find out along the way. And honestly, dude, ever since I met with him, I just got back from Iowa. I went out there and interviewed him. And ever since I was there and I got back, I was like, that's my goal now. That's the goal. That's the way I want to live my life. And to know, like, this is my first time meeting you. I just met you today. And like to hear, like, I made this commitment to myself that I'm going to do my best to live authentically and let all the skeletons out of the closet. So there is nothing, there's no secrets, there's nothing, you know, I'm just going to throw it all out there. And to know, like, right away, dude, you're already doing that. You're like, no, this is what's up, man. This is me, dude. Take it or leave it. I love it, man. So I applaud you, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, you know, for me is to grow. You know, you're not helping yourself. You're not helping anyone around you by kind of keeping those in. I don't think you know, it's cool to show, you know, your character. And so I think I'm fine seeming weak or vulnerable because through all that stuff and what I've, you know, overcome is huge. So we were in Arkansas.
So she PCS to Arkansas or what?
No, we didn't even make it there. So after we'd been, I think, separated for, let's see, it had been about 6 months, and she was going to end up coming to Arkansas, and then we both deployed again, and then that's kind of where it fell apart. I had cheated, and she knew, and then we had both deployed, and she changed her mind, you know, that she's like, okay, I don't want to work through this, because she had tried at first, and then so she wanted to, and then she didn't. She kind of kept changing her mind, and so at that point I was like, well, okay, let's part ways, because it was just a back and forth, and it was obviously real hard on both of us, and you know, more on me because I took it as an opportunity, an excuse to drink even more, and I was in Curacao for that deployment, so it was like a TDY, you know.
Right.
There was we stayed in a hotel with a casino and drank, and so yeah, from there I actually did just for myself, you know, and I guess kind of in a sense to show her, you know, that I could go without drinking. So I think the last 4 months of that I didn't drink at all, and then came back, you know, then it was just again, you know, she's like, oh, I see you're doing well, let's try, and then so we would hang out, and you know, ultimately just didn't work out. And so after after Arkansas and after all that kind of fell apart, I ended up in Vandenberg here in California.
Yeah.
And then I immediately, I was a staff, I kind of skipped some things, I guess. I basically worked my way back up after the deployment. I kind of got it together and worked my way back up through the ranks and kind of got serious. I don't think I drank for, it was probably almost a year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is important.
Were you going to like AA, or were you like, are you just, okay.
AA, and then was doing like some small therapy through the base and stuff.
Cool.
And yeah, so things were going well. I think at that point, once I was in Curacao, I was senior airman, then I made staff, and went, did the whole Airman Leadership School and got the leadership award in that, and
Right.
and then so basically once I made staff, then I got what do they call that? Where you pick your base and your base of preference, right?
Yeah.
You update that, and
Yep.
and I got one of mine, which was California, and so I was a staff, got there, and it must have been 6 months. I think I was there and got a DUI again.
Oh, shit, dude.
Yeah. So that one was not on the base. The first one that I had in England was on the base, so I just lost rank and wasn't a huge
wasn't on your
deal.
record,
Obviously,
yeah.
it sucked, but
Yeah.
so the one in California was off base, and I was arrested, and basically was kind of punished twice. I lost rank through the Air Force, so I was back down to senior airman, and then I ended up paying like $10,000 worth.
Oh, for sure. It's
of
not cheap, man,
fines.
to get
Yeah.
a DUI, man. It's definitely not
and
cheap.
then I had to do 90 days of, I don't even know what they call it, but basically you go to class once a week.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, 9 months of that.
Yeah. The
And so
alcohol
that was-
classes. I forget what they call it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I had a buddy that had to do it.
Yeah, so once a week for those 9 months, and then basically you can earn your license back. So I lost that, and then earned that back, and then kind of, at that point, what do you do?
Right.
So I kind of just felt like I kept letting myself down, letting the Air Force down, letting my exes down,
Right.
with drinking, and at that point, I decided, I guess I was about done. I was dating another girl at this point, and she had walked out on me one night, and I was like, "That's it. I've had enough of failing, of losing to the bottle over and over again."
Right.
And I didn't have the courage, I guess what they call it, courage, to take my life, and so I just decided to drink everything I had. And maybe I would work up the courage. And my buddy was on leave or something, and I knew he had a pistol in his dresser.
Yeah.
And so I drank everything I had. I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I reached out to an old friend from back in like elementary school,
Yeah.
and we were just kind of telling him I was having a hard time. And so they gave me the suicide hotline number,
Right.
and I was on the phone with them, and they must have found a way to direct, the base police to where I was at, and so it must have been maybe a minute or two before I pulled the trigger, and at this point I was pretty much blacked out. I don't remember what happened. I didn't even know that I shot the gun until I got back home, and so basically I kind of remember being in the ambulance. I remember waking up in the hospital, not knowing exactly what had happened. And
Right.
then come to find, once I got back home, and they're like, "Hey, look, my flight chief kind of said, look at the ceiling," and I didn't realize I shot the gun. I don't know what happened. I remember having it to my head and not knowing, it's kind of like one of those, how did I not,
Right.
take my life? And
Fucking heavy, dude.
yeah, yeah. And so at that point, I think, talking with, obviously you go see your commander after big events like that.
Oh,
And
yeah, for sure.
He was a really cool guy. And he sat me down and talked to me like a person. And it was breathtaking, but, you're still in that position where you feel like, can I say everything I need to say to this guy?
Yeah.
And but he knew that I needed to get out of the Air Force. He knew that it was a trap for me, that I was just going to keep drinking, and that basically that I wasn't the person I needed to be. And so he helped me. He sent me to San Antonio to rehab. Sent me to rehab down there, and I stayed there for a month in like an intensive care kind of, where you go to classes every day, and they kind of give
Were
you
you drinking like
homework.
every day at that point?
Oh yeah. And so after I got back, I mean, that was it. I mean, from the moment I decided I was going to take my life, and then getting through that and realizing, like, ultimately every time I drink can be that moment, just again and again until I succeed. And so that was the last moment. That was almost 4 years ago.
So you've been sober for 4 years?
Right, almost.
That's
Yeah.
fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
Congrats.
thank you. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just
Do you miss it at all, or do you feel like you're
at times, yeah.
like where it's like, man, I think I'm gonna drink, or I feel like whatever. Do you have a good sponsor that you talk to, or I mean, do you still go to AA classes, or
I don't go anymore. So, yeah, I mean, I went probably for the first year.
yeah,
And then at that point, I'm more, I guess, faith-based, like recovery. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
AA talks about a higher power being, whatever you want, this pot of flowers or whatever. And I believe in God. And so
That's cool.
I was like, well, I'm going to reach back out to my faith and what I believe in. And I had gotten away from church and all that stuff in the Air Force. And so I was like, well, I'm going to have my relationship with God.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way I went. I had a weird experience in AA. And so that kind of turned me away from AA.
Do you mind sharing it?
Sure, yeah. So I had a sponsor, and he was gay, and it ended up being kind of, he was pushing the line, and I didn't think it'd be an issue because, I mean,
You're not
no
gay,
one's going to
so.
cross, right? No one's going to cross that line,
Right.
But it just became too much, and it was kind of awkward. And
Right.
I would go, to do like a study at his house, and his like boyfriend was there. They lived together, had a house together, but he would still flirt with me anyway, and so it just got weird. And I think that kind of pushed me out of AA completely. And I was like, well, let me go around more like-minded people, and so that's kind of why I decided I was just going to go back to church and kind of talk.
That's cool.
Talk to people about those experiences. And that's kind of where the music comes back in. So I was making music for the whole time I was in the Air Force. We even did shows like when I was in England, we did shows. Me and a buddy had a group, and we would go out to the clubs in England and play and stuff.
Club M or what?
Oh man,
De Niro's? What city were you guys going to? Do you remember?
Cambridge, maybe?
Going to Cambridge?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the club though.
I don't remember all the clubs in Cambridge, but I definitely remember Newmarket because it was closer, so Club M and De Niro's. I don't know if they changed their names by the time I left, but
I can't remember the names, but we opened up for like Joe Budden one time. He was out there.
Oh, cool, man.
So yeah, it was cool. And so, I mean, I kept making music, but I was never completely serious. It was just like something I did on my off time.
Yeah.
And so once I was out of the Air Force, it was kind of one of these things that, like, I've been doing this for now 16 years, and I was like, let's see what I've got. And this is kind of where we're at now, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So I did right after I got the Air Force, I worked for the fire department on the base as a dispatcher, and worked for them for a little while. It was just
Here at Vandenberg?
right,
Okay.
yeah. And so I did that for just over a year, and at that point, I met my now wife, Erin, and it was funny. We actually met online on Tinder. And it's
I've
kind of
heard
one
great
of those,
things about Tinder, but I stay away. I'm married, so I'm not even looking at that app. There's no way.
So very unexpected. I had met, plenty of women through the app that were all kind of
They're just there for one thing, I think. I mean, it's from what I hear.
Yeah. So it was awesome to meet someone like her
Yeah.
on there, because you just don't expect it. But
For sure. And then you defy the odds. You know what I mean? It's like statistically, it's like this probably is going to work out into something cool. But like, how long have you guys been together now? Like,
so that was end of 2015. I got out, and I met her just as I was getting out. So it's been almost 3 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
and so it's just crazy that I went to rehab and got out of the Air Force, and then there she was, like waiting for me after I'd finally, got it together for the final time. Let's hope.
Definitely.
And so I met her on Tinder, and she ended up being a CrossFit coach, and it was one of those things like, oh, CrossFit, like not CrossFit, but
Right.
So I decided I was going to go try CrossFit out and give it a shot, and I ended up liking it. I'm sure you did a lot of the same stuff, just heavy lifting in the Air Force.
Yeah, I mean, because they didn't really have like the setup for like the CrossFit stuff, And to be honest with you, the first time I was ever exposed to CrossFit was in 2009. I went back to Virginia Beach to visit a buddy of mine who was he was a Dev Group guy, a Navy SEAL. So I went to go visit him, and he was doing some CrossFit stuff, and I'd never been exposed to kettlebells or anything like that. I mean, I think I maybe had heard of them, but like, I didn't even know what the fuck a kettlebell was when I got there. So he was doing all these crazy workouts, and he had all these weird names for them, like the Judas and the Yankee 3, the Nasty. There was all these like crazy different names and stuff. And so he was showing me all these workouts to do, and I really was like, man, I'm digging this, But at the time, like I had already had 5 back surgeries, so like I was limited on some of the things that I could do and some of the lifts I could do. Definitely the weight that I could lift or whatever. But but that was my first time being exposed to it. But when I was in England, man, it was just pure the old school, body build, just chest, tries, back buys, it's typical bullshit.
Yeah. So I had noticed that when it was just weightlifting that I ended up having problems myself. The Air Force said I had like arthritis in my right shoulder, and I was just lifting way too heavy, dumbbell presses overhead, like 100-pound dumbbells. And so, I mean, I got pretty strong for sure. But then once I realized with CrossFit that as long as you're doing things correctly, that you can move a lot better and just,
for sure.
I just felt better. So I was getting strong doing Olympic lifts and just, quick workouts and not suffering under weights for hours at a time.
Definitely. So that's the misconception, I think, with CrossFit, is that a lot of people that don't know anything about CrossFit or never have tried it, maybe talk a lot of shit about it, like, you're prone to injury and stuff like that. And some of that is true. There are some major injuries because I think you're pushing yourself a little bit too far sometimes. But if you have a really good coach and you have a coach that's aware of body movements and body mechanics, it's actually better for you doing that than it is to be doing what you and I were doing back in the military, where it's like you're just going, put it on 405 or 3, whatever, and just bench pressing that. Your shoulders are getting all jacked up because your core isn't braced, your blades aren't tucked back,
right?
And you're not moving properly. And there's a guy a company that I've been working with called Move You on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen them on Instagram, but they have a huge following. And this guy, Andrew, his back was all jacked up. He's like totally tore up. And they're like, you need to have back surgery. And he was doing the same stuff that we were, just lifting weights and, thinking he, aesthetically wanted to look good. But the mechanics were piss poor.
Right.
So he actually got with a CrossFit coach who's an ex-military guy. And that guy basically went through with him little by little and critiqued his like, this is how you brace your core. This is how you do these tiny, tiny body movements. And he would just practice them over and over and over again. And now, I mean, I would say, dude, he is probably, if not the guru in the world for body movement, he's definitely one of them. He's definitely up there. I mean, the guy is like an encyclopedia dude, of body mechanics and body movement. And so, if you haven't checked him out, you should, because he's great. But he's a CrossFitter, is my point. And so he goes and does CrossFit, but like, he's not getting injured. He's not, and the reason he's not is because he's doing the movements properly.
Right.
And so I actually had been following their program and doing they have an at-home program. And I'm trying to get more veterans and military guys to get to buy into it, because it's something you can do at home. And then once you do it, like even me sitting here, like even though my posture may not be what it needs to be, I'm thinking about it. My shoulders should be back, my core should be braced, like whatever. So it's like it becomes more of like of a body like awareness,
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so she's a CrossFit instructor. You started doing CrossFit. You still doing it?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So we do it together. I mean, when we travel, we drop in and, do CrossFit.
Any kids?
No kids.
You want kids or no?
Eventually.
Yeah.
So she's going to school and I'm, pushing with the music stuff. And so
what's the plan with that? What's your goal with that? So like, I mean, I see your flows on Instagram. I'm like, dude, you got talent, bro. It's not like you're just some whack dude trying to rap. It's like, no, you're a good rapper, dude.
Appreciate it.
I don't know enough about the music industry to really know how that all works. I know my cousin, actually, he has a band, and so I was around his band, and I saw kind of like, I wasn't on the inside, so I didn't really see like everything what went into like releasing this music and getting it produced and what that all entails. So are you working with like a record label, or are you like, what are you doing?
All just independent.
So when it's independent, what do? You like basically you do a track and then do you send it to people? Do you try and get it like promoted, or how does that work?
So I guess in this age, you just kind of push as hard as you can with social media and, work with other artists, that are basically trying to build a career and do music. And so you can work through, there's like a bunch of distribution groups that will take your music and put it on iTunes, Spotify, kind of everything for you. And so that's what I do now. So I go through something called DistroKid, and they basically take your music, make sure that it's basically quality enough, and send it out there for you.
For sure.
And so that part makes it easy. And then as far as all the other stuff, I mean, you're just working as hard as you can and hoping somebody catches wind of it. And so I'm working right now with the Marine Rapper. I don't know if you saw some of that stuff.
No, I've seen his stuff online, on social media. And that's a good point with social media, because like, I mean, who am I, dude? I'm like some white kid from suburbia, you know what I mean? And you get onto social media, dude, and like you're following one person, and then that person's following another person, and next thing you know, it's like, dude, like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy, yeah, for sure. And then it just catches wind, man. It's like, what's that rule? The 6 rules of or the 6 dimensions of relation, or like everything. Like if you go, like there's 6 like different connections you have with people who get to like the president or something.
Right.
Like that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they did the 6. I forget what it's called.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah, but the 6 something to Kevin Bacon. I think there was something like that going around on social media. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So working with him, I think it's just awesome, to work with veterans. Period, and he's an awesome artist, and so
for sure.
He actually reached out to me. He does something called Ninja Punch, and it's kind of like just a group of, he shares all veterans that are artists that sing, play guitar, just anything, and he'll share it. And so he reached out to me, and that was almost 2 years ago. Yeah. And ever since then, we kind of just slowly been working with each other, and we did an EP. Was that this year? I think it was this year. So we put out a project together, and really cool. It was called Box Fort. And we've got another group with me, him, and another Air Force vet. Right. And so that's kind of secret mode still. But
there was a guy. Let's see if I can find his name real quick. I'm gonna look it up. I apologize for a little pause here, but he I actually posted one of his videos, and I think you probably know who he is if I tell you real quick. It's like Doc something. Hold on. The guy's like, I was like, wow, dude, that's really cool. Like his beats were legit. Like,
Doc Brass?
No. Let's see.
I'll say that. I'd know him a little too well.
Got the Drop Gunner is the one who put it. The real Doc Todd. Have you checked him out yet? I'm plugging you on here, the real Doc Todd. I'm plugging you. But so he had this really cool like song that he did, and Drop Gunner actually posted it, and then I reposted it because like a bunch of Marines like come up, and one of them's doing push-ups, and then a bunch of other ones come out and they do push-ups. Okay. Actually, he posted it originally, but I stole it from Frogman 2155 because I like it, man. It's like it speaks to like how the military works, man. You like
veteran as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll check him out.
Yeah, for sure, man. He's dope. So I got to ask, man, like, I don't know if you, we're going to go kind of deep here. So like, were your parents growing up, like, were they together your whole life?
Yeah.
Was your dad, like, did your dad drink, your mom drink? Was it like a, and I'm asking because like, that takes one to know. And like, I mean, I had an issue with drinking. I quit almost a year ago.
Good.
So that's why I'm asking. If that's something you don't want to talk about, that's cool too.
No, we can talk about it. So he did have an issue, but it wasn't really shared with me. It was kind of one of those things that I guess as a parent, he didn't feel, you know, that I needed to know, I suppose. But he had an issue when he was, I think when he was in the Army as well, and had similar, you know, thoughts of like taking his life, but he ended up not, you know, he quit on his own kind of thing. And so I think it is genetic. So
yeah,
I don't know how you feel about that, but
I never wanted to, me personally, I never wanted to like say like, you know, if my dad had an issue with drinking and then like I had an issue with drinking, like for me, like my life has always been about like just complete ownership. Right. And so I'm like, does genetics play? I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the whole like ins and outs. I know that it does play a part for sure, because I mean, you just can't deny it. I think there is science out there that supports that. However, like for me, I've always been like, you know, I just want to take my own ownership, and if I have an issue, like I want to try and solve it, regardless of what my family history is. And I'm asking you because, like, I'm not shocked for you to tell me that your dad had like a drinking issue. You know, it's like, oh, I mean, it makes sense because it's kind of like there's commonalities there. You know, what I mean, it follows suit usually. But it's unfortunate. Like, I guess that maybe that's the learn for you when you have kids. You know what I mean? Is that I think as parents, I'm a parent. I got 4 boys, and like it's there's certain things I don't share with my kids. Number one, because they're just too young to know anything right now. And then my oldest is 11. But now that he's 11, I'm sharing things with him about life. I'm sharing things with him about my struggles as a father, my struggles as a husband, my struggles as a person. And I'm not sharing those things with him to put the burden on him or to think that I want him to solve my problems for me. I'm sharing with him to know that like I'm fallible. I'm not infallible. I have things that I work through. I also want him to have an open mind and be like, don't close your mind off, man. There's so many, I don't have all the answers. I'm your dad, but I don't have all the answers. And I'm always searching. I'm always looking for them. So had your dad, you know, shared that with you, it probably would have saved you a lot of heartache. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Potentially, you know what I mean? Like, did he ever, like when you first got your first DUI, when did he tell you? Like, when did he tell you, like, hey man, like I had an issue too?
He didn't.
Really? How'd you find out?
From my mom. So
wow.
Yeah, I was glad to hear you say those things, you know, that you're sharing them with your kids, because I've always thought, you know, would that have stopped me from going down that path, or would it have mattered at all? You know, I've always been curious, you know, if that would have played a part. And yeah, so my mom basically, after all this stuff had been going on, and almost took my life, that's kind of when it all came out. Like, your dad had the same kind of issues, and I was like, why? So I still have a little, you know, resentment, I guess, toward that fact. You know,
for sure, man.
That he kept that from me, and he saw me, you know, struggle for years, and I don't know if it was just like a pride thing, or
I think it's definitely a pride thing. I mean, I don't know your father, but I think like I can speak from a man's perspective, and I think that's. I mean, they say it's one of the 7 deadly sins, right? Is pride, and I think that's wise, because like you're so prideful that you can't even just let out your demons. And like we first talked about at the beginning of this conversation about vulnerability, you know, it's like, I really truly believe, and I'm starting to believe it even more as I get older, that vulnerability, the willingness to be vulnerable, is the true strength. There's not strength in just holding it all in and acting like you're a badass when in reality you're crumbling inside, you know what I mean? And that's something I shared on social media not too long ago. I shared a video about, you know, breaking the stigma about mental health, that so many people think that, you know, you're struggling, you know, with this mental health issues or whatever. And I, myself included, I've struggled with horrible panic attacks and anxiety and, you know, and what have you. And I felt like I was so alone in my struggles. I felt like I was so alone in what I was going through. Like, I was so special that no one knew what I had going on. They didn't know, you know, and it's like, but in reality, when I started sharing my story with people, I started sharing what my struggles were. There were so many people that came up and were like, dude, I go through the same shit. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. Because sometimes sharing stuff, it opens other people up to be like, it's okay to share it. So now they're going to come out, you know? Right. And there's healing in that. So I think that, I think it's awesome that I mean, that you get that learned from that. That even though you may have some resentment toward your father for not sharing it, and that kind of sucks. I think that's the beauty of life, dude. That's the beauty of like, I can look at my parents, you know, like I don't have a relationship with my mom, and I talk to my dad, but we don't have like the best relationship. There's no hatred or anger there. It's just, we just don't really talk too much.
Yeah.
But I look at that, and I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive. I look at it as, okay, this is the relationship I have with my parents. This is not the relationship that I want to have with my children. You know what I mean? I want to be able to have an open and honest relationship with them and learn from those mistakes. And so hopefully, like, if you and Aaron decide to like, hey, yeah, we're gonna settle down and have kids, then you can do it differently with your kids, you know, and share those struggles. I think it's important, man.
Absolutely.
It's super important, you know, because I mean, hindsight being 2020, dude, I think if you had your dad share that with you, I don't think you would have gone down that same path. You know what I mean? A lot of us are, I think, you know, being independent men, you know, especially being over in overseas and whatever, that shit grabs you, man. It grabs a hold of you. And if you talk to a lot of dudes that were, it's not just England, man. I mean, just the military in general. It's not that drinking is, I mean, it's allowed. It's almost like it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's kind of like not promoted, but it's part of the culture. And it's like, you just drink. And I don't know, like, for me personally, like when I stopped drinking is when I really had to start like fighting a lot of my internal demons, dude. Because I no longer had a lubricant in front of me blocking me from all that shit. You know what I mean? When I have really bad social anxiety, I had like this weird irrational fear of flying and all these other things. But like, I would just have a couple drinks and then I would be totally cool. It would be good to go. I mean, I feel like shit the next day, but like I was good to go for that moment. And when I stopped all that is when I really woke up and was like, shit, man. Like I have to like deal with this head on. And it's not easy, man. It's not easy at all. And I went to the AA. I did the AA route for a little bit. And I went to like maybe 3 or 4 meetings or something.
Okay.
But I just didn't feel like it was for me, you know? And I think the part that like got to me the most, I think in the meetings, I think the book, the big book or whatever they call it, I think there's a lot of good in that. You know, I mean, I think if you work the steps as a person, like not just an alcoholic, just as a person, you will come out better for that, for sure. In my opinion, you will come out a better person after if you truly work the steps. But the meetings themselves seem like a lot of people, in my opinion, were like playing that. And maybe it was just the meeting I was at. And I'm not, like I said, I don't want anybody to perceive this as I'm knocking AA because I'm not at all, because it's helped a shit ton of people. It's more like, it seemed like the meeting that I went to, that there was a lot of people that were playing the victim role, you know, almost like, you know, hi, my name's whoever, and I'm alcoholic, and I can't help myself, and this and that. And it's like, I just personally have never ascribed to that kind of mentality where it's like, no, I can help myself, dude. But I have to be aware enough to help myself, you know? And if you don't know it's a problem, sometimes you just don't. You just keep doing the same shit. Like, I mean, obviously, you stayed in the same cycle for a long time before you decided, like, dude, something's got to give here. You know what I mean? But thank God you did now and not, you know, fuck, dude, you could have killed someone when you're driving drunk. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong and didn't. So,
Tons.
Yeah, for sure, man. So what was like your like catalyst? I mean, you said that like playing music and playing the trumpet and stuff like that was like what got you into music. But why the hip hop? Like, why did you decide? You know, because some people like, you know, that you grow up and it's like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. Did you always know, like, dude, I want to be a rapper? Like, who was your influence? Who was the one that you looked to and said, man, I want to be like that? I think that's cool.
Man, that's tough to pick one. I guess in high school, I listened to a lot of like Atmosphere, Sage Francis. This is more underground artists. I guess no one that was too big. I mean, everyone could say Eminem, but he wasn't like the main one that I listened to. So yeah, I wouldn't say there was one particular artist that I was like, I got to do this. But I remember a moment where I was like, this isn't that good. Like, I could do this. And so I was watching, it was an old P. Diddy music video, and one of his verses, and I was just like, there's no depth to this. You know, the lyrics are just too obvious. Right. And I was like, I gotta give a shot at this. Like, I could make this better. And so I think that was it was a challenge at first, and it was like I had something to prove. And just that I saw hip hop going from something that was a lot deeper, and it when you see things on the radio or on TV, and it's always just so, I don't know what the right word is, but it's just too obvious. It's
generic
not
or whatever.
right. Yeah, there's nothing to it,
Right.
and I guess it was a point for me to make something that people could actually relate to, because I mean, these people are up here and they're famous, and they can maybe relate to that, but everyone out there is normal other than them. And so
Right.
I thought, let's make something about what people actually go through. And so that's kind of where the openness to, talking about my drinking and my cheating and struggles were,
Right.
important to share, because I felt like you were saying, once you've opened up to people, you realize how many people need to hear those things.
Absolutely.
And so I don't hold those things back, because I may have been ashamed before, but it's something that needs to be heard. It's something that people deal with every day. And so,
Absolutely. I think
yeah.
it makes you more relatable too. I mean, like, to be honest with you, like if you would have came in here and and say like we're talking or whatever, like I think you can feel someone's energy when it's like you're not being real, you're not being authentic, you're just kind
Right.
of like just going through the motions type thing, or putting up a front.
Yeah.
But when you immediately started taking down those walls, taking the bricks out of your wall, like showing me inside of your life, inside of your like soul, it's like, bro, now I can relate to you, dude. Now like we can actually
Right.
have a real candid conversation. That's actually, I don't know, man. I think it relates. It definitely like. I think more people can relate to it. So like when we release this podcast, I'm sure there's gonna be a bunch of people like, damn, dude, he's been through some shit, but so have I. You know what I mean? They're gonna relate to like what you're saying. Maybe they'll be inclined to share their story as well. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
think that's the beauty in it, man. Mm-hmm. So
I mean,
cool.
yeah, I mean, people that reach out about, especially, it's always the deeper, darker tracks that I make that people reach out and say, that's the song. Like
sure.
that's the one that hit me, and I listen to it every day, or thank you for sharing this. Thank you for, whatever it may be. And it's an awesome feeling to know that other people are feeling that way. And hopefully something that I'm doing is helping them to get to the place that I'm at.
Absolutely. Is there like is this like your full-time gig? Is this something that you're all in? This is like
Right now, yeah. It's
Wow.
all in, yeah. And so me and my wife had moved to Colorado from California because her dad got sick. And so he's got a incurable lung disease. And
Sorry to hear that, man.
yeah, thank you. So we had both moved up there basically to help take care of him and help her mom out and stuff. And so we just ended up, he ended up doing better than we thought he would.
Oh wow.
And so it's been
That's
a
good.
blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
So we got up there, and we actually got married in Colorado, and
What part of Colorado are you guys in?
Estes Park. So the Rocky Mountain National Park is right there. That's like the town,
probably
the
beautiful
gateway.
as hell, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. And so we're lucky on that part too, because I mean it's a great place. And so after we got married, we went on our honeymoon, came back, and her father had a heart attack. And so from that point, it looked pretty bad. He had some stents put in 5 years before that, and basically they had failed, and they had to go put some more in.
Right.
And so I guess that kind of exacerbated his lung condition, and he was going kind of downhill, and then he started doing better. And so we stuck around. It's kind of one of those things, we're helping family. It's what else would be a better thing to do at that point,
absolutely.
Spend time with family. And it's been good for me to get to know her parents better, and just an eye-opening experience. And so after the heart attack, he started going to cardiac rehab. So he goes 3 times a week, and it's been helping. And so they're doing, even now, there's a new drug, I think, in Canada that's been helping this incurable lung disease. And so there's hope.
Yeah.
And he's, it seems like he's going to be going along for quite a while now. And so we're
Super cool.
kind of in a interesting place because I've been able to focus on music, on, with our spare time, and she's going to school. And so it's been, a great time for us to figure out what's kind of next and really to push hard and pursue our dreams.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. Where
Right.
It's like you have this creative juice inside of you, man. You want to let it out. But you also have life you got to deal with where it's like, dude, I got to go to this job. I got to go here. I go there. I got to pay the bills. It's like, but when you don't have those stressors, it's like, for me, I know when I'm the least stressed, when I'm like out in the mountains and I'm hiking by myself or whatever, that's where I feel the most creative. You know what I mean? Where it's like I don't have anything like around me, where I can just like be in my own zone, which is cool. Super cool.
And there I am sitting in the mountains.
Yeah, for sure. So like, how often are you releasing like tracks? Like, do you have like a goal on that, or is it kind of like you just? And how do you do your beats, man? Is it like, do you find a beat? Do you make a beat? Or like, how does that work? And then like, I mean, like I said, I've been exposed to it a little bit with my cousin. Like, it seems like they'll drop like some beats with the the drums and then the bass and this and that, and then they give it to the lead singer, and then he makes lyrics based on the music that they make. And I could have that all fucked up, I'm not sure, but how do you do it? What's the creative process? How does it work?
Yeah, I look for music. So I basically, over the years, have found some of my favorites, and I go back to them all the time. And so I kind of just listen to, I could listen to hundreds in a day.
Right.
I'll just go through kind of my favorite, my list, kind of listening to each one. And as soon as I find one, I pick it up right then. And because I can hear something, I know, that's something I could definitely do.
Do you have a flow in mind, or do you listen to the beat and then your flow starts coming to you?
Yeah, after I listen.
Yeah.
Producers are huge, I think. I don't think they get enough credit because I can be inspired just by like their sound.
Right.
And I guess I get an image and I start writing from there. But yeah, I can sit there and listen, and I can have like I can hear or kind of like picture the flow that I would have on the song. I can even sing a little melody, and it kind of just goes from there. But
so, what are your thoughts on? You said you're sober, like you're not drinking. Do you smoke at all or no?
Nothing.
So like when like for you, like sobriety is like you're sober from everything. Like you're not gonna take anything. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool, man. The reason I asked is because like I know that talking to a couple of, other artists and, singers and stuff like that used to, do drugs and drink and all this other stuff. And like, that was part of their creative process. It was part of them like getting on the stage and being more fluid and being like just more in the moment type deal. And then when they got sober, that was a challenge for them. It was a challenge to find that creative energy that they were so, like, I guess they were kind of relying on other substances to kind of get them there. Mm-hmm. So did you feel like there was a drop off in your creativity when you stopped drinking, or do you feel like you're more creative now that you're sober?
Ooh, that's tough. I would say that I'm more creative now just because I know that I guess that I know that this is what I'm wanting to do. When I was drinking, so I would kind of use that when I used to write. I would drink and I would write. And it really slows you down. It slowed me down. I felt like you slur your words, you're trying to record something, that just makes it even tougher. And so now that my mind is clear, I can write something every single day. And there's that whole writer's block thing, and I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had that in probably over a year.
How long does it take you to write a song? Like when you hear the beat, you're like, yeah, this is my beat, this is what I'm gonna go with, and then
could do it in a few hours. It really just depends. For
so
me,
if I asked you to drop a flow right now, could you do it? Like just out of nowhere, like on the drum of the hat?
Oh, I could try, but I probably wouldn't do you anything good.
No, let's hear it, dude. I want to hear it. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
You talking about just straight freestyle? Huh?
Just straight freestyle, dude.
I don't know if I'd have anything good for you.
If you got a beat on your phone, dude, that you want to throw a beat on your phone, dude, we can do that. That's cool.
I wish I had prepared something. That would have been fun.
Yeah, I just figured it'd be kind of cool in the moment, Just throw it out there.
See what I got on here. I know I got something. What's that? I don't know if I'd have anything good for you, to be honest.
So maybe it's gonna have to just be freestyle, dude.
Man, I wish I had prepared something. I don't know if I got anything.
No?
No. Yeah, so I mean, I don't really freestyle a whole lot, which is probably my weakness, I guess, because so I used to freestyle all the time, and you can get lucky, you can get lucky freestyling. I feel like you can find, sometimes you can just find the right words.
Well, that's what I was telling you, man. When I see like some rappers, dude, I'm like, dude, either like they're like sitting at home reading the dictionary all day long, or they're just way smarter than me, because like I don't know how they grab like some of the like the words and the rhymes and whatever, they throw it all together. It's a trip to me. I'm like, wow, it's it's creative and it's smart. It's pretty intelligent.
I can write very quickly, but freestyle that's probably my weakness.
What do you have like a rap that like already that you have memorized like in your head you can throw out there? It doesn't have to be a freestyle.
Yeah, I could probably do that.
That'd be cool.
Why not? I might do one that I just did. Let's see what I have.
Yeah, was it like Flow November?
Flowember, yeah.
Flowember, I like that, dude.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It actually came from my brother was doing the Inktober. I don't know if you saw that. Inktober, so people were like drawing things for all of October.
Oh,
and
that's
it was
cool.
called Inktober. And so my brother was doing that, and he said, hey, you should try Flowember and have, people rap to whatever
Oh, so you
word.
started that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
cool, dude.
So,
Really cool.
yeah.
So if you guys haven't checked that out, go on Instagram. You can see on Andrew Rapp's Instagram, there's like a Flowember.
Flowember, yeah.
Flowember, yeah. So each day has like a different topic, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a different word, and you can, people are, right now it's basically just been me, and
Right.
we actually had a submission today, and so it's slowly getting out there.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Let's
Gotta
see
keep
one of
doing it,
these
man.
beats.
It's like everything. It's like just
Yeah.
it'll gain momentum,
Yeah, it might take a few years, a few tries bringing it back around. Let's see. I know I've got some beats in here. Here we go. Maybe a little sample of what we're working on. Yeah. I don't know how good that's gonna pick up, but
These mics are really good, so they pick up, most of it.
let's run it back. I don't know if I got that one memorized. I'm gonna get you something.
All right, it's cool, man. Putting you on the spot right now, dude. So
Yeah.
I apologize.
No,
Maybe
I
should've-
need it.
And that was like one of the things that I always I've said on previous podcasts that there's no script, there's no questions, there's no like. I didn't even talk to you, man, before you got here. It was kind of like, yeah, dude, you want to do this, man? What day are you good? All right, cool. I'll see you at this time, this date, this place. Yeah, let's do it. So there's no rhyme or reason, man. So sometimes I guess that could be a good thing, sometimes bad, but whatever. It's all good. Just go with it.
I might mumble a few words because I don't remember exactly,
dude.
but yeah. Just woke up from a freezer nap. Anybody wheeze when they rap? Got this inhaler, been a paler, but I gotta breathe knowing it's about 3 degrees in the back of my mind. Half of the time, hitting with a rapid rhyme. You living on the vapid side with no appetite. You never make it back in time, and the path is wiped out. Trapped in the Rockies, looking for the walkie. Page in the ground, maybe you can play hockey. But when in the jockey, even cold enough in Milwaukee, and it's all we do. Hold on. Get to vaulting too, hitting with a salty crew. Even when it's good on ice, get a little bit of traction. And I know that I could be cold, but I gotta build on every good interaction. And I'm passion, all about passion. All these radio waves I'm crashing. I'm a good captain, but I wasn't back then. I'd abandon ship without rations. Just a little something, yeah.
Sick.
Kind of sloppy, but
No, I like it though, dude. That's fucking awesome.
thank you.
That's the other. I'm dropping f bombs. I'm cussing on here and whatever. And you said that you're going to church or whatever. So like on your raps, Do you use foul language? Is it all like?
It's all clean, yeah.
Dude, that's a trip, man. That's actually because I think that's harder to do. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it, like using like for me to say fuck or it's like it's just me being intellectually lazy. You know what I mean? Sometimes I mean you put an inflection on something by like extreme passion. So you're using those words.
Absolutely.
And I think like with rapping and stuff like that, I think sometimes it's easier to use cuss words when you're rapping because it's kind of like it goes with the flow, it goes with the moment and how you're feeling or whatever. Mm-hmm. But not using them for me would be 10 times harder, dude. Way harder, to not drop F-bombs and stuff. But that's cool.
I used to all the time. I mean, in the Air Force, I mean, that's I feel like is almost a part of the culture as well, especially being a cop.
When I got out, my grandma was like, man, you need to go back and like fix your vocabulary because when you get back, it's pretty much like fuck is like every other word. Right. And it's like, and you use it for everything. And it is a hard habit like to break. Oh yeah. Once you get out and get into the real world and you're in a meeting and you can't just be dropping F-bombs and stuff. So one of the things my grandma told me when I was, dropping all the F-bombs, she's like, as long as you're spelling it with a PH, like we're cool because then it's sophisticated. So we're all right. So what are you working on like right now? Just basically making the music, and then what's your end game for you, man? What do you want to like? Do you want to be on a stage? Do you want to be like in a group? Do you want to be solo? Like what's the end game for you, man?
I love working with other artists, so I'd be cool doing something in a group or solo. So I guess
what if these guys are not like on the same tip? Like what if they're not sober? Like I guess my question is, are you okay with the fact that some people aren't going to be sober? Are you okay with some people are probably going to use curse words in their flows or their raps or whatever they're putting out there? Or would you rather keep it Christian and keep it like clean?
I've kind of struggled with that one personally. So I do projects with a lot of artists, and so I've done them with no cursing. I've done them with, and right. So it's tough because a lot of people like the ones that have cursing, right? And that's just like the part of hip hop.
Yeah, for sure.
People curse, and so actually a project we're working on now is going to have none again, and so I'm definitely between, I guess, on that one. It doesn't bother me because it's not what I'm. Yeah. It's not what I'm saying or doing, so It doesn't bother me. If they aren't sober or they smoke, that's fine too. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that was a question I had earlier, but I forgot to ask it to you. Now that you're sober and you're not doing, you're not drinking, you're not smoking, you're not doing any of that stuff, do you think it's going to be a challenge for you to stay sober if you're in that environment? Because in the music industry, man, like everyone's fucked up, you know? Like that's like kind of the thing, dude. Like it's around you in your face all the time. Do you think you're at a place in your sobriety where you're going to be cool, like you can manage and you're all good? Or is it something where you think that you should probably have a sponsor that you can call at a moment's notice and be like, hey man, like I'm having an issue?
Yeah, I think I need to keep someone definitely close that I can talk to about that.
I'm a phone call away, brother, whenever you need it. For sure, man. Honestly, man, if you're ever in a situation where it's like you feel like you're going to use again or drink again or whatever, holler at me, man. I think that's like probably the best benefit for me. Like, Phoenix, we both know Phoenix, like he's been sober for 6 years, I think 6 years. Mm-hmm. And I call him all the time, dude. Not that I feel like, I'm so weak I can't manage like this sobriety or whatever, but when I'm feeling like I'm having a bad day or like I'm struggling, I'll reach out to him for sure. Be like, hey man, like he's like, you're giving it too much power. It's always what he tells me. You're giving alcohol too much power, dude. It's like, what if someone told you, you can't have soy sauce with your sushi anymore? Are you really gonna miss soy sauce, dude? Who gives a shit? The sushi's still good, He's like, that's the same thing with alcohol, dude. You can still have a good time without alcohol. It's just you got to let go of the power that you're giving it, and that helped me anyway.
I agree.
It probably doesn't help other people, but for me, it definitely helped. So I'm gonna ask you 2 questions, man, that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast. The first one is, if you had one person or one book that inspires you the most. It could be multiple books, multiple people, it's all good. But like the one person or book that inspired you the most to do whatever it is you're doing right now, or even, not even whatever you're doing right now, but what inspired you for your life, like to, just in general, what would it be?
How does anyone pick that?
A lot of people have been using like books instead of people, like books that they picked up that they really dug. Like the guy, Joshua Coburn, that I just interviewed this last week or a couple days ago. His was like bands, you know what I mean? Like Henry Rollins and Phil Anselmo and Hatebreed, and I mean he used like a lot of the people that inspired him to like bring out his own creativity and live life on his terms type deal.
Right.
So now it could be anything, man.
Man, that's tough.
Your dad, it could be God, it could be Jesus, it could be the Bible, it could be whatever like you think is like inspires you the most, man.
It'd be tough for me to pick one person. Obviously, God is huge in my life, and that's definitely one. I guess one that I would use, but at the same time, I think just family in general is such a huge inspiration for me. Right. One example, my little brother actually. One time when I was in the military, I'd been gone. I was in England, and then I came home and saw him sing in church one time, and it brought tears to my eyes. Like just small, was just doing his thing. I mean, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary, but
for sure.
I think family is huge. God and family, I mean, just two huge things, and that's kind of what. At the end of the day, it's where we all go. We all, go to our faith. People pray at the end of the day. People are with family at the end of the day. I think that's kind of all what we're here working for is right. Building those relationships with those people. And I think those are probably the two things I'm inspired by, just because those are the things that are ultimately important. Right. Building relationships and talking about things that maybe my dad didn't. So right. I wouldn't say that he's a big inspiration, but maybe he is because he inspires me to make those changes for myself and for what's ahead, So.
Absolutely. And so the next question will be, I reworded it the last podcast, so I think I'm gonna stick to the same, like rewording it. Because I just asked people if you had one regret, what would it be and why? And the reason I asked that question is I wish somebody would share with me what their worst thing that if I could save you the heartache, just don't do this. I can save you the heartache. I want to learn, man. I think wise men learn from their mistakes, and truly wise men learn from the mistakes of others if they're smart enough. And so I'll ask you that, man. If there's one thing like in your life that you could save somebody the heartache of going through it, what would it be and why? Like, what's that one thing that you wish you could do differently, or that you don't want it to see anybody else go through? What would it be and why? It's all part
These
of the
are heavy, huh?
Oh, they're heavy.
They don't sound.
That's why I call it the backstory, bro. Because like we all have a backstory, man, and like you don't. Sometimes when you come into your life, you look where you are in life, and you look back and you connect the dots. Like Steve Jobs, I think, said that at a commencement speech at Stanford. Like you come back to where you are, and the only way to see how far you come is to look back and be like, wow, you connect all the dots and be like, oh, if that didn't happen and that didn't happen, I wouldn't have met this person, I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Right.
And so that's kind of that's why I asked that question, more as a learn for other people. You know what I mean? Are you blanking on it, or do you have something that?
I guess one thing I would hope that people wouldn't do would be to dwell and anticipate negative things in their life.
It's huge.
I used to always, I guess in a way to prepare myself for something bad coming, I'd always think, what's the worst possible thing I could think of? That way, in case something like that happens, mentally I'll be ready to accept that thing.
Absolutely.
And so that became a big, probably for most of my time in the military, was I would think about, okay, what's coming? What's the one thing? What's about to hit me? But then I never had a positive thought ever. And so I was constantly, beating myself up or expecting things to happen that ultimately would never happen. And so I guess that would be a huge thing to not do, is get stuck in those mindsets where you're allowing yourself to, be tempted by your own thoughts, because thoughts are just like a script your mind thinks up.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'd buy into it, like, oh, that's my mind. It's so smart, when right. Ultimately it's just creating thoughts. And so I'd constantly have to challenge those thoughts. Like I'd have to say, okay, well, is this thought going to make me who I want to be? Is this acting on this one thought going to bring me to a place that I want to be, or the person I want to become? And so I think that's one thing that's huge, that people need to get out of that mindset. And when a thought comes to them, challenge it. Like, if I act on this, is this bringing me to where I need to be?
Or does it even serve you to have that thought?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of, I think people are waking up to that idea, because I think that a lot of times people thought that was like some new age bullshit, you know, where it's like, oh, positive thinking this, but it's like, no, but there's a science to it, man. Like it's like it's physics, dude. Like if you're putting out positive energy all the time and this and that, positive things will come your way. You'll start to attract those situations and those people that bring positive energy back into your life. But if you're constantly like staying in a negative state,
right,
negative shit will keep happening to you. And I've lived it, you know what I mean? And it was not a good time for me. And I think that once once I learned that I could control what thoughts I was allowing into my mind,
right,
things started to shift for me. And is it an easy task? Hell no, dude. It's super hard. You know what I mean? Because you have to be aware, like, oh, dude, that's a negative thing. Because a lot of like the majority of people suffering, in my opinion, is based on their own thinking. A lot of times, like you're creating a situation that hasn't even happened yet, and here you are, like creating all the suffering for nothing, like over some thoughts that you're having.
Right.
And it's silly as fuck. But but yeah, man, that's huge, man. But hey, dude, I sincerely appreciate you, man, coming on the show and being vulnerable, being willing to be vulnerable and share your story with a lot of people, because I think it'll resonate with a lot of people for sure.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. Great to meet you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So we're gonna I'll be releasing this probably on Thursday, man. So I'll definitely be letting you know before I release it. But where can people find you? Like, do you have I know your Instagram, but go ahead and share it, plug all your Instagram, any social media.
Yeah, I mean the big one to follow be at Andrew Raps on Instagram, and then I go by D.Cure, so that's D.Cure, which you'd be able to find on Facebook and all those other social media sites, Twitter. And if you want to check out some cool stuff for November, there's always the Flowember stuff going on this month.
Yeah, definitely, man. So you're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and do you have anything like on Spotify people can find you?
Yeah, Spotify, iTunes, that's all through D.Cure, so they'll be able to find, just search D.Cure, yeah.
So you guys need to go check it out, and thanks again, man. I truly appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, brother.
Thank you for listening to My Backstory. Stay motivated and stay connected off the show. Follow at my_backstory_ to be a part of the journey to recovery and to see where your story goes. Or visit us online at hereismybackstory.com.